Hello YouTube, this is Charlie426, and today we have the review of the premium Bandai exclusive, or P-Bandai exclusive, HGUC, the G-Line Standard Armor. Now, we have come a very long way to actually see this in a HG kit or Gunpla kit format. Now, for those who never seen this mobile suit, and you probably later happen to learn about this mobile suit in other games, manga, or whatever, you probably wanted to have this kit, or a kit of it. So once again, this is the G-Line Standard Armor. For those who don't know the names, this is basically that blue one. But the way how these kits or this mobile suit works is that they actually have a standard frame mobile suit called the G-Line. So the G-Line is supposedly the actual successor of a mass production type of the RX-78. But once again, you can see, obviously I'm assuming it's mostly cost-wise and never actually got mass produced. But once again, the way how this works is that you have the G-Line standard mobile suit, and then depending on which type of armor you slap on, it becomes either the standard armor form, the standard armor, or assault armor, light armor, or the full custom version. So yeah, with this now released, I think we can at least safely say that the assault armor and then the light armor type will be coming out. Although I really hope that they actually release it as a separate kit, not as just the armor set, because I would prefer to just have them as separate kits. Anyway, let's see what we got. So in this review, we're going to look at the G-Line itself, and then we're going to check the articulation and any other features, and then after that we'll slap on the armor to make it into the standard armor version, and we'll see what to look at that. Okay, so let's start with the components. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the G-Line standards, the G-Line itself, and with the armor parts to make the standard armor. As well. So these are all assembled, so all you just need to do is slap them on there if you want to make it. Although there is actually, believe it or not, there is a little bit of parts forming, technically one area, or depending on how you look at it, two areas, but you get my point. So yeah, and then here are the standard weapons or other stuff that you should be getting. So you might have noticed there are no, surprisingly, there were no any leftover pieces, which was a big surprise to me. Usually premium Bandai kits would always have some leftover parts, but in this case there were none. So yeah, all right, let's get rid of the typical stuff. Number one, we get the beam saber effect parts, typical stuff, so that's that. Hand wise, we get the multi-purpose hands for the left and right. It's basically a set, and then we get a open hand for the left hand, just for the left hand for some reason, and then we do get a trigger finger hand sorry about that. We do get a trigger finger hand dedicated for the beam rifle, so it has a firm grip, and here is the beam rifle. Definitely has a little bit more heavier look compared to your typical beam rifles we usually see in the Universal Century era. So yeah, yeah, it's just a single barrel now. Because these two bottoms, they may look like a triple barrel, but no. And then we have and the scope is a color separated piece, so if you want to color that should be pretty easy as well. And then here we have the shield, very heavy looking shield, but once again it gets the job done. And then we have a very simple ball jointed connector here. So yeah, well done. And then here we have the sticker sheet. So the sticker sheet, we have the eyes / visor, but you put it inside, so it doesn't matter. We have the back head camera. We have the V symbol for the crotch area. Once again, very random. Sometimes these would be part separated, sometimes they aren't. I'm not sure what the exact standard is. And here we have these 4 round circles that will be on the armor part, which I did apply. And then these vents are also supposed to be on the armor part, which I decided to skip because it doesn't you don't really see it that much, and once again it requires you to fold and then fold as well. So I personally do not like folding stickers. Alright, and then let's look at the armor parts here. So let me just put this thing away. So once again, we have the side skirt armors, nothing too special. And then here we have the shoulder armors. These are the shoulder armors. They just you just plug them in on top of the shoulder and you're good to go. Pretty well done. And then here we have the leg armor here. So here is that round sticker I was talking about, and then here is the other side of that leg armor. So basically it's your typical, you wrap around the leg and you're good to go. And I believe the sticker you're supposed to apply is, yeah, here is the thruster area. You're supposed to wrap around this triangle area and then apply the stickers, which I decided not to do because it also gets covered up by this extra thruster on the side. So very well done, and you can expect 2 pieces of the same. And then here we have the ankle armor part. So this goes not on the foot, but on top of the ankle area. So kind of interesting, but once again, did not expect that. Here we have the beam saber storage for when you have the armor attached on. Now currently the beam sabers are on the back side here, but you actually need to take these parts off and then put the beam sabers here. So yeah. And then here is the part that where you need to actually take off, to separate, or you have to swap. So if you look at the chest here, there's a part here where you can actually slide out. Yeah, there we go. Here is an example. So you have to slide out and change it with the blue one. So that is the only parts forming area, which I assume, yeah, I mean I'm not really complaining, because I guess that's the way how it works, even in the real mobile suit. So yeah, nothing to complain about. Now I know if this was like a Wave Rider thing, people would complain. But once again, even for Wave Riders, I do prefer parts forming, because if I can have a much more stable and solid Wave Rider, I would take that. And then here we have the knee armor, nothing too special there. And then here is the back section leg armor as well for the legs. And then here we have the back skirt, this one that actually allows you to move. And oops. So you don't actually attach this on top of the back skirt. You actually you have this part here that connects to the back skirt area. So that's the way how it works. And here we have the front skirt armor. Now the front skirt on the G line comes in one of those ball jointed connections where you can separate them. But if you want to have an easier time, I suggest you don't cut that, because with these you have to connect them together. And this is being a single piece. Yeah, I think you would have much more easier time without separating that. But yeah, you get my point. And here we have the backpack with the Gatling Smasher. Now the way how this works is slightly interesting. Now if you build this, you technically get two backpacks. I mean, if I can take this out. There we go. Now it's not supposed to be this difficult to pull out. Come on. There we go. So you have two backpacks. You have this one, and then you have this one. So this is the standard version. This is the standard backpack, and this is what they call the high mobility type backpack. And you can see you have these pegs here, which allows you to easily swap out the beam saber, attachment. So you can attach this like that. So it's really easy to choose. Now, once again, being the G line itself does technically use the standard backpack, but they do give you the option whether to use the high mobility type. But once again, once you're applying the armor, they tell you to use this backpack, so you may as well just use this and permanently connect it like this, like how I do it, and they call it a day. And then you have also this piece, which also is like kind of like a locking mechanism for the backpack. So yeah, it's gonna stay there for a long time. And then the Gatling Smasher, you do have a little bit of articulation, but we'll get into that later. Alright, so we've seen the basics. Now let's look at the mobile suit itself. Alright, so let's see what we got. So let's start with the head as usual. Once again, being a Federation mobile suit, visor very typical, standard design. Now, if they actually go with the high mobility, not the high mobility type, the light armor version, I assume we should be getting a different type head, or maybe a different armor style that you have to attach onto the head. Because as far as I know, the light armor which was used by Hughes, the leader of the group, actually, if I remember correctly, had a different shaped head, if I remember correctly. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to work out. So which is why I'm hoping that they are going to be separate kits. So yeah. So but anyway, this is the standard version. So we have the nice visor inside it, and you can see the sticker inside, but not too visible as you think. And then everything here, you see the red, the Vulcans. Everything is part separated. The only part that's not is the back camera sticker. But once again, it's a small sticker. I don't think it really should matter. And I'm going to take off the beam sabers, because the only gripe I have is that because of these connections, you plug the beam saber into the backpack. Whenever you touch it, move it, it's always going to be like that. So once again, not the best connection, but it works. Alright, so let's see what we got. For the head, it can go down, up, that much, pretty well standard articulation, 360, no big problem as well. Now looking at the main body, we do have a nice shoulder joint here, so you can see the joint actually popping out over there as well, and then being a ball jointed connection, you should have no problems moving the shoulder forward and backward, and 360 twist as well. Now the shoulder armor itself is kind of interesting. This is the part where you plug in the armor part for the standard armor, and this whole entirely just works as like some sort of armor as well, so kind of interesting. So the shoulder can move 90 degrees to the side as well, and then as I mentioned, 360 is possible. And the arms, very, very nice bend. As you can see, the white, the gray, the blue, these are all separate pieces, and the way how you assemble this is kind of interesting. So I've never seen any way of assembling like this, because I think they were very considerate on how to color separate all these parts here. And to avoid any of the Alex syndrome is that this part actually rotates itself on the bottom. Now you can force it to go 360 like this, but once again it doesn't really have the best feeling if you do that. So I don't really suggest you do that. But once again, it should whether direction, you should have enough whether to do what you want to do. So if you want to do it like this, oops, sorry about that. The handguard popped out. So you can swap it like this and then have about a 90-degree bend if you want to do so. So that's the way how this works. Oop, come on. And then the arm itself can rotate 360 as well. And the hands are your typical ball jointed hands. And here we have these square holes, which are the main connector ports for the shield connector here. So big deal. Alright, so now looking at the body, because of the body structure, you do have a nice ab crunch going on, but make sure you always make it go back to its original position, because if you forget, you're gonna be like end up like this kind of position where you can see the backside is going upwards a little bit. And before we go to the legs, let's look at the backpack. Once again, standard version as well, nothing too special here as well. And then the backpack can be detached pretty easily because it's not that way. That's not supposed to happen, but you get the idea. It's supposed to detach like that. So I may have given a little bit too much strength, but yeah. And here is that small port where you can slap on the back skirt connector as well. And here is where I was talking about. So here we have the front skirt, or something like a front skirt. So once you apply the armor, you're supposed to use those two connectors below the front skirts. And once again, because you have to connect them together, I do suggest you don't cut the middle ball joint, because if you do, they're going to be moving separately, and lining up there might not be as easy as you think, because these are so small. And then we have the V symbol for the crotch. I decided to use a gold Gundam marker. I still need to scratch out just a little bit more of the excess paint or marker paint that's been applied. Alright, and then there's no side skirt, but you have these parts, which is basically the main connector for the armor parts, for the side skirts as well. So kind of an odd choice, but they do exist. And finally we have the legs. So you can see all the sides there, so you have a nice side swivel going on. Forward 90 degrees, no problem. Backwards 90 degrees, no problem, because there are no armor parts blocking it. Oh yeah, and by the way, this part here, the side skirt thing, is a ball joint, so you can turn them if you want to do so, and then go to the side 90 degrees all you want to do so. And then bend wise, now in this current bend you get only 90 degrees, but you can extend the joint. You can see that you can extend the joint and have a much more bend if you want to do so. Now, although proportion wise, it already looks like it has very long legs, so I think it's really up to your preference and how you want to make it look. But if you're into, like, tall mobile suits, I guess you can extend that a little bit more and have more articulation. But it's really up to your preference. Just wanted to point that out. And feet wise, you have all this forward and backward movement, side to side movement is possible, ball joint, and nice pivot going on here. And I should mention, this thing does not use any polycaps. No polycaps, all plastic joints. So I think this kit will last for a long time. For those who don't know, polycaps being rubber, they are going to rip or break or whatever. Something is going to happen on the long run. Now, the reason why you haven't seen Bandai kits or Gunpla kits has any issues with their polycaps, like after, I stored my kit 5 years and still good, is because Bandai is actually very good at making their own polycaps, so they last a long time. But if you try a different company version, like for example Flame Toys, I left in the box for 1 or 2 years, and then all the ball joints, all the polycap joints have ripped. So yeah, this just happens to be that Bandai's version is very well made. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the kit. The G-line itself is very, very good. You can see all the beautiful color separated pieces. The articulation is superb. So I think if we do ever get the assault armor or the light armor or the full custom version, I think they're gonna be great on terms of articulation as well. And okay, so we've seen the basics. So I think the only thing that the next part we should show you guys is the armor parts attached. So I'm not going to show you the process because it's obviously what you think it is. So I'll be right back and let's see what we got from there. Okay, I'm back. So here we have all the standard armor pieces attached onto the G-line, and everything fits perfectly. Now, surprisingly, you would think that'd be like, because of the G-line, then you're technically applying armor, you think it would be all messy. But once again, thanks to the G-line having a very slim factor design, it doesn't really feel like you have, like, armors on top of it. So it feels like this is the standard mobile suit. But once again, you get my point. Let's see what we got. here. So everything fits perfectly. I don't think there is any loose points. Maybe the only loose part that I could think of, or maybe experience, number one, is maybe the shoulders can, if you pull this upward, they can pop out, and then one of these, the blue parts that you have to swap out, feels a little bit loose than the other. So other than that, everything seems very fine as well. So let's see, let's start from the top to the bottom as usual. So once again, onto the head, there's nothing you attach onto the head, and on the body, as I mentioned, you have to swap out the gray pieces into the blue pieces, and that is pretty much it for the body. But of course, if you look at the back, obviously one of the biggest changes is that you swapped out the backpack from the mobile, from the standard version to the high mobility type, and then on top of that backpack, you slap on this part, which has the extra fuel canisters here, which we've seen previously before on certain mobile suits, and then we have the Gatling Smasher. Now, despite how it sounds, this is basically a compact Gatling gun. So if you've played any games, you will see these are actually Gatling guns, very powerful ones as well. So once again, as you can see, you can move backwards, forward as well. You can go backwards about 90 degrees where it's standing upwards, and then forward all the way 90 degrees as well. Now, these things do not rotate at all, so don't try to force it, but they get the job done. And then here we have the fuel canisters that you can adjust their height if you want to do so, and that is pretty much it. And here, looking at the back skirt, you have the back skirt armor attached using the white piece, and on top of the white piece, you put this white piece again, and then you can connect the beam saber hilts. And this is a much more stable connector compared to the ones in the backpack as well. So that is very well done. Alright, now let's get the arms. Now, obviously, on the lower arm, you do not attach anything. The only thing that you attach is the shoulder part. So once again, despite having the shoulder armor, articulation-wise, doesn't change as much as you think. You still have the 360 twist going to the side. 90 degrees is still possible as well, and should not affect any of your bend articulation as well. So no changes there. And then now looking at the main body, once again, you still have these ab crunch going on here, so nothing really changes in terms of articulation there. Of course, there might be some parts that collide with each other, like for example the backpack thrusters and the beam saber holster, but it's not as bad as you think. And then once again, here we have the side skirts. These are the way how you attach it. So you can see there's a peg hole there, and then that whole small piece acts like a peg, and you just slap it on there. And then here we have the front skirt. You can see this gray part, or grayish blue part, actually attaches to the smaller front skirts as well. So which is why you do need to connect both sides. So which is why I do suggest you just do not separate them as well. Now, once you attach them, you may look like it can go down a little bit more, but no, it's actually colliding. This is as far as you go down. So don't try to force it, or this may pop out. Alright, now looking at the, now because of the armor pieces, now the leg articulation may get hindered a little bit. So, like for example, going 90 degrees is not going to be much of an option because of the side skirts, unless you move it around or jingle it around a bit. But once again, still, yeah, because of this, you are going to have some collision. And going for the back skirt as well. Granted, the back skirt does move a little on its own. You're supposed to move it, but because of the beam saber hilts, it's blocking the way. So once again, articulation is there, but once again, it's going to get hindered on the process. And with the leg armor also applied on, now articulation doesn't change. Of course, if you want to have the double bend, you do need to extend the joint, so that still remains there. So, and then for the feet wise, once again, the only part that you add is this ankle armor part, which goes inside the leg. So, and then despite that, there's no changes in terms of articulation. So that is pretty much it. So as you can see with the armor on, the articulation is all there. Of course, some parts may get hindered, but in the end, nothing has been really much affected. So that is very good. And finally, let's demonstrate the equipment, and we'll end it off there. So once again, the shield, all you need to do is connect to the square hole there, and then you're good to go. It connects there. And once again, if you want to have the side, you can always rotate the arm if you want to do so. Or not the entire arm, or you can rotate the lower section if you want to do so. And then now you have a much more, you know, the art illustration style arm, you know, joint here. Because if you look at the which is I call the Alex syndrome, if you look at the Gundam Alex art style, you can always see the Gatling guns on the side of the arm. But in order for a human to do that, because the Gatling, if you look at a human where if you want the joint to have pointing forward, then the Gatling gun should be on the back. But once again, if you want to have it look like in the art style having the side, then you have to twist not 90 degrees, but you have to twist 90 degrees of your arm. But then older kids have the problems where you cannot bend that. But this one solved that issue. And then finally we have the beam rifle. Now the beam rifle seems a little bit big and chunky, a little bit heavy, but once again, there's no issue holding the arm. Despite how big and chunky it is, it does not affect the weight or our joint at all. And that is pretty much it for the review. So once again, I am really glad that they released this. And I'm really happy that I was able to pre-order this as well. So I'm really hoping in the next few months we can get the Assault Light Armor and maybe up to the full custom or G custom, whatever you call that one, in the future, because I am really looking forward to collecting the whole set if possible. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the review. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. This was the review of the Premium Bandai exclusive HGUC G-Line Standard Armor version. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.